Hi, my name is Carrie, and I just wanted to share with you some of my experiences with pregnancy. Right now, I'm almost 33 weeks pregnant with my seventh baby. Um, I've gone through the pregnancy experience and delivered 6 full-term babies. So I just wanted to share with you some things that I have found helpful over the years. And instead of just giving you like the generic advice that you could find on Baby Center or The Bump, I just wanted to get into some specifics that are like real life application and ways to address some, difficulties in pregnancy. So welcome to the video. I hope that this is interesting or helpful in some way to you. So first I thought I'd start with my pregnancy history. So I had my first baby when I was 19. Then a few years later, I had my second baby. And then shortly after that, I had a very early miscarriage, sometime in the 4th or 5th week. And then I went on to have babies 3 and 4. And there was a long break of no having babies. And then I had an early miscarriage again. And we weren't exactly planning to get pregnant then, but we did. And it kind of reopened in my heart a desire for more children. But we thought about it for a long time. We prayed about it for a long time. And my husband and I were just not quite certain. We already had 4 children at the time, and life was full. And so we were kind of almost feeling, I don't know, like greedy, or were we taking on more than we should be or could. But ultimately, we kind of just decided to pray and to leave it up with the Lord. And I kind of left my desire for more children at the Lord's feet through prayer. And it was really about a week and a half after that I found out that we were pregnant with our 5th child, who is our daughter, Iola. And I had a really good pregnancy with her. Unfortunately, she did pass away when I was about 38 and a half weeks pregnant. We don't fully know why. The maternal fetal medicine doctor and my OB, who has reviewed my medical history and everything that happened, they suspect that I had a concealed sentinel abruption. But whatever the cause, I'm very grateful to have been her mom for the short time that we had her on this earth. And I will say that having delivered a baby who is no longer living and gone through that experience of mourning has probably changed my perspective on pregnancy. And I now see that all of our children, we don't know how long we're going to have them with us, and we should just celebrate them. That's my perspective. I think we should just celebrate them and love them for whatever time that we do have. So that's kind of my approach toward pregnancy as well. But anyways, I digress. So that was our 5th. And then within about 2 months of delivering our daughter Iola, who did pass away, I became pregnant with our 6th child, another little girl, which I thought was so sweet. We were excited to have a little girl in the house because it was our oldest is a girl, and then we had 3 boys. So we were very excited to have a girl in the house. She's now about 2, and we're expecting another baby girl in just a few weeks. So that's kind of my history, my background, but I want to just jump right into my experience with first trimester and some tips and things that I have found helpful to me. I just wanted to share them with you because who knows, maybe they'll be helpful for you too. So I also want to preface and say, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional. I'm just a mom sharing my own experiences, so don't take this as medical advice. Don't do something crazy and sue me. But anyways, first trimester. So with my first pregnancy, one of my first symptoms was sore breasts. I remember being like, oh, my breasts are sore. And one of my friends was in a college dorm. She was like, oh, you're pregnant. And that thought hadn't really crossed my mind, but she was right. So that was one of my very earliest symptoms with my first pregnancy. But I will say that I haven't experienced that as a really early symptom with subsequent pregnancies. So I don't know why, but that hasn't really been something that I've experienced. With the last few pregnancies, I've kind of taken to ordering the inexpensive strip pregnancy tests. You can get them in bulk from Amazon. I've used Easy at Home and I've used Pregmate. I think Pregmate is what I used for this pregnancy. And I really liked having those, especially when I was breastfeeding and I wasn't getting a period, because sometimes I would feel a certain way and think, like, could I be pregnant? And I could like quickly take a test without guilt. It's just like, oh, it's 50 cents or something. And I could either confirm or deny that I was pregnant. So I like to have those on hand. And that's what I use to find out typically that I am pregnant. And then I like to buy kind of a more standard pregnancy test. I personally find that the blue dye tests seem to show my pregnancies earlier and more clearly than the pink dye tests. So for instance, Clear Blue or like the CVS or store brand generic alternative, I prefer to like first response, early response, and it's, generic alternatives. So I do tend to like to confirm my cheap tests with a little bit more official tests. So I feel like, okay, 2 different tests have said I'm pregnant. It must be so. This time when I found out I was pregnant and the last 2 babies that I've had, I've kind of waited a couple days and I've tested a couple mornings consecutively, and I kind of like make a chart. And I do appreciate seeing like a line darkening. A few pregnancies ago, I did it, but I did it for like weeks. And especially with the cheapies, I eventually came to a point where the test line stopped getting darker and it started getting lighter, which was very concerning to me. But that's when I learned about something called the hook effect. So the idea is that when your HCG levels get extremely high, they can like oversaturate the test and result in either like a false negative, and that's not what I got. It was still positive, but it was just a lot lighter positive. So what you can do to test and see if that's what's going on is you can save that urine. This is a really odd video to be making. Anyways, so you save that urine, you can dilute it with like equal parts water, and then dip another test in, and if it comes back darker again, then you have reason to believe that maybe that previous test where the test line seemed lighter was maybe just that way due to the hook effect. But anyways, I've decided since then that I wouldn't continue to test that long, because I thought that I was kind of having diminishing returns. It wasn't as helpful with confirmation. So now I just kind of test for like a couple days in a row. And then once I've, had a couple days in a row, that's when I know it's time to call the OB and make an appointment. It's not time to see the OB yet, but at least I find that my OB is hard to get into, so I need to call pretty early so I can get my first appointment on the books. Next, I don't tend to have too many symptoms until about 6 weeks, so I find that it's good to just stay busy, stay engaged in my life, try to just have full days, get outside, see people. I choose to share that I'm pregnant with close friends at that time. I'm kind of somebody who is a sharer. I'm more of an open book. I don't share with like the world at large, but I do want to be able to talk with my close friends about it. So I'll share with them pretty much as soon as I know. And part of my reason for that is, I've had 2 early miscarriages before, and obviously our daughter Iola passed away shortly before she was born. And so I just have this perspective of, while this child is living with me, however long it is, I just want to celebrate them and love them. So that's part of why I choose to do that. Around 6 weeks, that's when I start to notice maybe some food aversions developing. Kind of have stronger reactions to certain smells. For instance, coffee, which I normally really enjoy, and I think it's one of the best part of waking up, is Folgers in your cup. I really enjoy the smell of coffee typically, but around 6 weeks, something starts to shift where like it's now an offensive odor. I don't want to drink it. So what I try to do is I just kind of in that time of feeling nauseated, I just eat what sounds good and what I'm able to eat within reason. So a lot of times that looked like toast with a little butter. And then surprisingly, there's this tea that I found really delicious this time I was pregnant, and it's called Tazo Passion, and it's like a really tart, like I think it's a hibiscus. It's hibiscus flowers, natural flavor, rose hips, lemongrass. So it makes this really kind of tart sour drink. But what I would do is I would just open one packet, and then I'd boil some water in my kettle, and I'd put it in a glass like this. This glass is it's tempered glass, so I don't know if you would do it in a regular glass. Maybe it'd be better to do it in like a Pyrex measuring cup or in a coffee cup. But I would just barely cover the bottom of the tea bag with hot boiling water, and then I would let it steep for about 5 minutes, and then I would add ice and cold water to taste after it had steeped and take the tea bag out. So it was like a really tart, cold, refreshing drink, and that tasted really good to me in my first trimester. So I kind of had to find replacements for coffee, and I do feel that in the first trimester it can be challenging to get enough liquid, and I think sometimes that was the cause of my feeling more tired than I had to be, because I was probably just dehydrated. So if you can find things that appeal to you and you're able to drink and stay hydrated, that's ideal. And then, like, on the subject of queasiness, these are the vitamins I take. The brand is called Adapt Naturals, and this is a BioAvail multi. In my first trimester, I really took like none of these. I would sometimes take my children's chewable Smarty Pants vitamins. The thought of swallowing a pill was just reprehensible, and I didn't want to do it. And I didn't think that I would be able to keep it down. And I thought it would also make it difficult to keep down any foods or liquids that I had previously been successful in consuming. So I thought, I'm going to wait till I feel better. I know that I will. So vitamins are great if you can take them. The other thing is, if you haven't been in the habit of taking vitamins and you start taking them, it is possible that you might get a little backed up. And so it might be wise. I have found it's good to just like, what's the word? Like tighter up. So just maybe take half, or like this calls for 4 capsules. So like maybe take 1 capsule a day for 3 days or 4 days, and then you can take 2 for 3 or 4 days and gradually work up to the full dose. Another thing that I have found helpful to combat the potential side effects of vitamins and just the higher progesterone levels of pregnancy that can result in just kind of a slowing of the whole GI process is magnesium citrate. So this is the Pure Encapsulations brand. It seems like a reputable brand. Obviously, you should do your own research. But this can help with kind of like mild constipation. So there you go. I'm sharing it all on the internet. The other thing that I found very helpful with nausea is kind of like a mental attitude of saying, like, giving myself permission to eat what I can in the moment and not put pressure on myself to like have a full, complete, like well-rounded meal. Like I've seen what I eat in the days of pregnant ladies in the first trimester, and they're like eating scrambled eggs and stuff. And that thought to me was like not even conceivable. I could not conceive of eating scrambled eggs in the morning in my first trimester. And sometimes I couldn't even conceive of, eating toast. So this pregnancy and the last couple, I've kind of just said like, well, what can you eat? And so I can start small. For instance, like it might be sucking on a lemon hard candy. Or 2 pregnancies ago, for some reason, the individually wrapped Dove milk chocolate, that sounded okay to me in the morning. So I would like unwrap a square and then just like slowly suck on it and let it dissolve. And then, maybe 15 minutes later I would have another one. And then maybe 15 minutes later I would have another one and like have something to drink. And then I would feel ready to try something a little more substantial with some more nutrients and, proteins and fats and all of those good things. So I think that I wish I had known that when I was younger, and when I was, earlier on in the baby having experience, that like it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You don't have to eat like a vegetable omelet or nothing. You can start with something that maybe isn't ideal, but it can be kind of like a bridge to a more substantial, nutritious meal. Another thing that I've learned over the pregnancies, because I do get cravings, is to make or buy small quantities of whatever I'm craving. One of my recent pregnancies, I was like obsessed with the idea of potato salad, which is not something my family really likes. No one in my family besides me really likes mayonnaise. So, and I didn't like have the energy. And for some reason, like when I prepare the food in my first trimester, it's no longer very appealing or appetizing to me. So I wanted to buy it from like a deli or a shop or something. And one time I was just grocery shopping with my husband at Costco, and I saw it, and it was like there was like this beam of radiant heavenly light coming down on it. It was this like enormous 1 pound tub of potato salad, and I was like, I found it. This is what I need. And I got home, and I like didn't even put it in a bowl. I just like stuck a fork in, and then plunged it into my mouth, and then I was immediately like just disgusted by it. I was like, I can't eat anymore. That's enough. I don't want to see potato salad ever again in my life. But I felt bad about throwing it away because I had just bought it, and I was like, maybe tomorrow it'll sound good to me. It did not, and it never, I never ate that potato salad, sadly. So learn from my mistake and start with just buying small quantities of the thing that you're craving. And if it's consistent, obviously, by all means, buy in bulk. But I've learned that sometimes things taste good for like one bite or 1 or 2 meals, and then beyond that, like I don't want to see it again. So another way to go about that is accepting leftovers from people. So my mom was checking in with me during my first trimester when I was feeling really queasy, and I remember texting her. I was like, I think I just need some chicken pot pie. And I didn't want to make chicken pot pie. I did not want to deal with raw chicken or see it in any form. But my mom makes really good chicken pot pie, and so a few days later, she brought over like 2 slices, I think, of chicken pot pie, and that was perfect. Like the first piece was so good, and then I think I had the second piece for lunch or something the next day, but I could not have eaten it for a third day. She was like, do you want more? And I was like, that was perfect. That was perfect for those 2 days, but now I need a break, and there was like some new kind of craving. So consider begging for leftovers from other people. I also, my first trimester, would sometimes like buy something from a restaurant only for myself. We don't often go out to eat in our family. It's like a special occasion, like birthdays and celebrations and stuff. And but sometimes I would, in my first trimester, just like go and buy myself this particular sandwich that just sounded so good that I'd had before. I feel like I needed to have it, and I didn't buy enough for my whole family. I just bought enough for myself. I felt kind of guilty, but also at the same time, I felt like it was the right choice. So anyways, those are my main tips for getting through the first trimester. But those aren't all my main tips. I forgot to mention, there is a sleep aid product that my obstetrician said is safe for pregnancy. You should check with yours. But the main ingredient is doxylamine succinate. I don't think I'm pronouncing that right. The major brand is called Unisom. I'll link it in the description box. But it's an antihistamine, and what I found was that taking 1 tablet right before I started to get ready at bed at night really, really helped with enabling me to sleep through the night. Because for some reason, at least this pregnancy, my nausea was worse at night. And then this enabled me to sleep through the night. I woke up feeling like I could eat something. And then I wouldn't take it all day. And my nausea would like slowly reappear and build until its climax in the evening. But then it would be time to take it again. And I would, and it would help. And then I'd be able to sleep. I do feel that it can make me feel a little tired the next day. And I do experience some dry mouth when I take it. However, it was worth it to me to be able to eat enough and to drink enough to be able to function, because I was finding more and more days I was ending up like laying on the couch really miserable, or like trying to go back up and lay in bed as soon as my husband was done with work. And I wanted, I was like at a point where I was feeling like I wasn't functioning super well, and I was willing to try this. Another thing that I would recommend is this. This is called an Emesis bag. Emesis, like meaning vomiting, I guess. So like at first, I think I've seen these in the hospital. Like when my son got his tonsils and adenoids out, I think they handed us one of these for the ride home. But again, available on Amazon. You can get like a whole sleeve of them for $15. And what they're wonderful for is that you can easily put them anywhere. You can put a couple in your bag. You can put a couple in the glove compartment in your car. You can keep a couple in your bedside table. You can put a couple in the bathroom. As a side note, this isn't a pregnancy thing, but I will like tuck these into my kids' beds, or I'll tuck them in with it. Like if they say, "Hey, Mom, I don't feel good. I think I might throw up tonight." I'm like, "What? Why don't you take one of these with you?" But anyways, I would sleep with these, and it was kind of like a security item for me, because I would even sleep with it like this, and just in case like I woke up and all of a sudden had to throw up, I had an option. Also good for women who have had babies and maybe they have some stress incontinence when vomiting. So like if you know that you're gonna throw up and you have stress incontinence, which means like if you're somebody who like pees when they cough or laugh or sneeze, sometimes when you vomit the same thing can happen. So you can have your Emesis bag, and you can also be seated on the toilet in the bathroom, and you can take care of all of your issues all at once. This is an embarrassing video to film. So moving on to the second trimester, that's when I tend to start feeling better. The nausea dissipates and I'm able to eat and drink more, therefore my energy increases. And so I feel like it's a really good time to think about what you want to accomplish before the baby comes, and prioritize those higher energy tasks that you want to do. So for me, like this pregnancy, I really have tried to start decluttering in the second trimester, and it hasn't worked out perfectly because I have other kids and there were other important things going on the second trimester, so I wasn't just like only getting ready for the baby. But I do find that as we bring baby gear in, we need to kind of look around and evaluate all the possessions that we have and see like what are we using in this season, what aren't we using, can we sell something on Facebook Marketplace, can we donate it. So that I feel like the second trimester is a good time to do those things. We found a really great double stroller. It has the potential to be a double stroller. It can be like single or double on Facebook Marketplace, and it was one that I would never ever buy full price, new, but we got it for not a lot of money, and it's a great condition. So that's a good place to look for baby items. We also have purchased a crib and oddly a mattress on Facebook Marketplace, and I feel like they've been good purchases. So we've never bought a car seat. I don't think I would. I think I would only just buy a car seat new, because I don't know like the crash history and how it was stored and all those things. But second trimester, capitalize on your energy. And then for me personally, towards the later part of the second trimester, I started to notice that I was developing some like varicose veins. Now that's not something I experienced until like I just saw the very first hint of it in my fourth pregnancy. And then for my fifth, sixth, and seventh pregnancies, it seems like it's started earlier and been more pronounced. And I've tried doing different things like compression hose and trying to put my feet up. I kind of felt like for the compression hose, the cure was worse than the ailment. I found them like incredibly uncomfortable and difficult to get on. So the pattern that I've tended to notice is I'll like have some varicose veins and even some spider veins, and even like I noticed in my sixth pregnancy, now in the seventh pregnancy, some almost like bruising, almost looks like bruising down at my like right ankle and underneath the arch of my foot. That went away completely within like a few weeks of delivery with my 6th baby. So I'm assuming and hoping that that's what will happen. I did do a consultation with like a vein specialist when I was, I think, about like 6 months postpartum after my last baby. And there are like pretty straightforward ways to address varicose veins. I chose not to proceed because I wasn't sure if we were going to have another baby. Obviously we are. So that's something that I might look into when we feel confident that we're not going to be getting pregnant again. I also started to notice, like maybe about halfway through my 2nd trimester, some heartburn. So the first way that I address that, and this is common for me, I've had heartburn every single pregnancy. So the first step for me, I see, in addressing heartburn is to elevate my bed by putting something underneath the feet of the bed at the head. So only the head of the bed is elevated. And so my husband just found like some of these blocks in our garage. And I think he's stacked like 1, 2, 3. I think he has 3 of them stacked under the feet at the head of our bed. And for a while, that was helpful. That was effective in heartburn, because I only have it when I lay down to sleep at night. And I've tried like tapering off eating and drinking as bedtime approaches. That is helpful to a degree, but it didn't prevent the heartburn altogether. I would still wake up with it. And sometimes I wake up with it like almost feeling like I was about to throw up. But I think it was just actually heartburn that was giving that kind of like urgent kind of sensation. So I start with elevating the head of the bed, and for my last 2 pregnancies, that worked fairly well. I felt like most nights I was able to sleep without heartburn, but every now and then I would have some heartburn when I was sleeping, and so I started keeping Tums just in my bedside table, and then before bed I'd pull it out of my bedside table and just put it on the top right there so I could like groggily reach for it without having to really come out of a deep sleep and chew up a couple and then go back to sleep. Now this is something that I feel like everyone needs to know, but not all Tums are created equally. Some are really quite nice to take, and some are just like they'll probably make you gag and they're terrible. So don't buy this kind. You can see it's mostly full. I think I inherited this from my grandma. But this is the assorted fruit extra strength chewable tablets Tums. They're disgusting. They're terrible. If you have really bad heartburn and this is all you have, take it. But you have options. So if you're buying some, I would highly recommend buying the Tums Chewy Bites. This flavor is assorted berries. And so now I keep these on my bedside table. And they've got like a hard candy outer shell, and then it's kind of like a chewy like candy center. I find them to be just as effective in treating heartburn, but much more delicious. So that's what I would buy if I had to buy something. However, I have found that for this pregnancy, for whatever reason, I don't know why, that's not enough. So for most of my pregnancies, that's been enough. This has not been enough. So now I tried some over-the-counter like pills that prevent heartburn. This is called famotidine. That's the active ingredient. I'm not sure what you compare it to. I want to say it's maybe like Pepsid AC extra strength or something. I'm not 100% sure, but I'll list everything in the description box, the active ingredients. I always just buy the generic because that's just as effective, and I would rather spend less on that. But so I just take it once a day. It says you can take it twice a day. I take it in the early evening, and I feel like that gives it enough time to set in and be effective. Because my thought is I'd rather take as little medicine as possible. I know my OB said that was safe, but I feel like they're always coming out with new research, and sometimes the thing that they were proclaiming as safe, they now say actually not a good idea to take. So anyways, 2nd trimester is also a really great time to buy some maternity clothes, maybe some nursing bras if you haven't already. I really love going to like thrift stores. My 2 particular favorites, if you live in the Columbus, Ohio area, are Volunteers of America and this shop called the Clothes Mentor. So the Clothes Mentor, it's more, I don't know what the word is, like a more curated. So you go, and it's one of those things where you you like say, I have these clothes I'd like to sell to you. So, and then they'll like look through them and they're like, these aren't fashionable anymore, take these back, but we'll buy these ones from you. And so I find that that's a really good place to look for maternity jeans and also tops and dresses and stuff. But it's more expensive than just like the Volunteers of America. So Volunteers of America, you can go and get a shirt for like, $4, which is less than the Clothes Mentor, which is that, again, more curated thrift shop. It's, a shirt might be $12 or something. So anyways, I found jeans that I really liked at the Clothes Mentor. And then I've also been wearing kind of just like these, what are these called? They're kind of like one piece. They're kind of like overalls. And then you can wear a shirt underneath them, like long sleeve or short sleeve. And I find that these are way more comfortable than maternity jeans, but they're more casual. I don't know. So not that jeans are really dressy, but I feel like I don't always want to wear like romper style overalls everywhere I go. So like if my kids have an appointment or something, I'll probably choose like a little bit more of a structured maternity pant and a shirt that covers the belly panel and all of that. But for home and more casual things, this style of romper is super comfortable. There, I have 3, and I'll link them in the description box in case you're curious about checking them out. They're not like marketed as maternity. They just are voluminous, and I don't know, it must just be the style, but 2 of the rompers that I have, they have kind of like a lower crotch, which is kind of like a, I don't know, a harem pant kind of look, which is fine, but it's really good for pregnancy because as your belly gets bigger, it kind of like uses up that extra material. And then the second trimester is also when we ended up doing the genetic testing for the first time this year, and so we did find out that we were having a girl, and that was a really fun time to just like think about names. And people are divided on whether or not to find out gender. I've done it both ways, but I think you just have to know your personality, and you don't have to commit, to always finding out with every pregnancy or never finding out with every pregnancy. So you can experiment back and forth. But I like to have time to like think of a name and to think about getting clothes lined up, bedroom decor, nothing that's like super important. But I do find that being able to call a baby by their name, I don't know, kind of helps make them feel more real, and it kind of goes along with the idea of celebrating children for as long as we have them with us. And so actually with our daughter who passed away, Iola, we didn't find out that we were having a girl. And so I kind of feel sad that we didn't like use her name all through the pregnancy and think like, oh, Iola's coming soon, and just thinking, oh, Iola's kicking. It was just like more opportunities to say her name that we didn't have. But everyone has a different perspective, and it's all great. But that's my personal kind of thought on it. Also in the second trimester is when I learned that I'm a little bit low in iron. So and I have some symptoms that kind of confirm that. Like I've started to experience like a little bit of restless legs in the second trimester, and a craving for ice. Like I was always wanting to chew ice. So I think that's called pica, and it's kind of like a classic symptom of an iron deficiency. So I have started to treat that by taking an iron supplement. So the one I'm taking, it's by Thorne, and it's called Ferrosorb, and it's supposed to contain like the cofactors, like the other nutrients that you need that help iron absorption. Like I know vitamin C is one of them. So I'm taking this. I don't find that it really upsets my stomach. And so like when I run out of this, I'll get more. Okay, so that brings us to the third trimester. And I feel like in the third trimester, I've been a little bit hungrier. So I'm just, more things sound good even than during the second trimester. So I'm trying to eat what sounds delicious, but also try to really incorporate proteins and lots of nutrients as much as I can. And I still enjoy, whatever I want to enjoy, but I'm trying to just be a little bit more aware because I know breastfeeding's coming soon, and I want to make sure that, like, as baby is growing really rapidly right now, I think since I'm 33 and a half weeks, like she's putting on half a pound a week on average. So I just want to make sure she has good, nutrient stores, and that I have good nutrient stores as breastfeeding approaches. So yeah, I'm just leaning into my hunger. And in terms of eating, I feel like this is a question that sometimes we think about, um, and sometimes I think about it too, and I like don't want to ask because it seems rude. But like how I handle weight gain during pregnancy is basically to just not pay attention to it. So when I go to my appointments, when they have me stand on the scale, I just get on the scale facing in the opposite direction, and the person who's taking my weight, they don't announce it; they just kind of like write it down, and so I just choose to not really know what that number is. I know what I have tended to gain in the past because I didn't always do it this way. Um, like I normally gain between 20 and 25 pounds per pregnancy, and like my doctors have always said, this is healthy, this is good. So I don't really worry about it. I figure my doctor will tell me if I'm gaining too little or too much. Although at my last appointment, I did the thing where I stepped on the scale backwards, and the lady wrote it down. And then my doctor, as he was like reviewing things, he was like, "Oh, your blood pressure was this over this. That's good, and you've gained this many pounds this time." So I was like, "Oh man, he told me." But that's also fine too. It's not a big deal. I just I know that that's what my body needs to do right now, and I find that the more like it's not helpful to like dwell on it or focus on it. And same postpartum, like it's not helpful to dwell on it or focus on it. I just live life. I eat when I'm hungry. I don't eat beyond when I'm hungry. If something sounds good, and I eat it. If something doesn't sound good, then I don't eat it. I try to be like out and active. I exercise when I can. It doesn't always fit in with life. Like this pregnancy, I've probably exercised the least of my last three pregnancies. And part of it is just like that's where we are. That's the season with our family. It's like very busy. We homeschool, and I just didn't have a lot of energy, and I kind of got out of the rhythm of it. We have a toddler who doesn't, like to be ignored when I'm exercising. And as much as I try to get her to exercise with me, that only lasts about like 2.5 minutes. So I just kind of focus on being active, getting an exercise when I can, and I don't stress about it. However, this is, I think, a very important thing for third trimester, is to do the spinning baby exercises. I don't know if you're familiar with spinning babies, but it's basically different positions, like a series of positions that you can get into that encourage your baby to flip to the head down position to get ready for birth. So I just had an ultrasound this week, or last week, earlier this week. It was my 32 checkup with maternal fetal medicine because of my history of having lost a baby, and then also because I'm advanced maternal age now. I follow up with maternal fetal medicine in addition to seeing just an obstetrician. And so at my ultrasound, when they started scanning, our baby was breech, so she was head up, and then about halfway through the ultrasound, she flipped and was head down. And so we're getting to the point in pregnancy where like babies tend to settle into a position. But I will say that my last baby, my sixth, this exact same thing happened. I went to my 32-week ultrasound. She was head up, she was breech. And then I started doing the spinning babies exercises, not every single day, but most days. And I went again at 36 weeks to get my growth scan at the 36-week mark with maternal fetal medicine again. And she was head down. And so I like celebrated, and I was like, "Oh, good job, Carrie. You've succeeded in turning this baby." And then I grew complacent and I stopped doing my spinning babies exercises. And 1 week later, I showed up at the hospital for my induction because we had a planned 37-week induction. And before they could start the Pitocin, like they got the IV in and everything was ready. They're like, "Let's do a quick, little ultrasound to make sure baby's head down." And no, she was not head down. So we were given options of either going home or scheduling an ECV in the OR, which is like you go to the OR, you get an epidural, and then the doctors from the outside like manually try to rotate your baby to the head down position. So by the time that the ER, or not the ER, the OR was available, the nurse who I had, who was wonderful, and my friend who was kind of like hanging out and helping me and kind of being like a doula in a way. We just did a bunch of spinning baby exercises, and like the nurse got an ice pack and put it on my lower abdomen, so it was like kind of cold. We're thinking that might encourage the baby to flip, and she did. So it was funny because the doctors would like come in intermittently and see me in odd positions, like partially upside down, and I remember one doctor, like kind of like with a bemused expression, was like, "Well, what you're doing, it won't hurt." But then by the time the OR was available, they came to do a real quick ultrasound again, and they were like, "Oh, well, your baby, you did it. Your baby is head down now." So then they recommended like breaking my water right then to make it more difficult for her to flip back again. So another tip for the third trimester comes down to how to put on shoes and socks. So I don't know why, but in pregnancy I always feel like I should just like bend straight down, you know, like in between my legs, and try to reach my socks and shoes. But what I find to be much more comfortable is to kind of like put one leg up on a step, like to the side. It's like if it's on my left leg, I put my leg up to the left, like over, and then I like lean over the leg instead of leaning over my belly. And I feel like that's just a lot more comfortable way to tie shoes, put on socks. So you kind of have to elevate your foot, it's off to the side, then you do your thing. I don't know why. It took me a really long time to figure that out. Probably everyone else already knows that. But if you don't, I hope it helps you. Let's see. So third trimester, doing the spinning babies exercises is good. It's time to like kind of think about preparing for baby. We have so much to do still to get ready, but we have all the essentials. Like if she came today, we would have it. So like we've got a car seat, we've got the stroller, you know, that's really all we need. Oh yeah, we have, you know, crib. We have safe places for the baby to sleep. I feel like we could pick up diapers on the way home from the hospital if we needed to, you know. But I can do another video if anyone is interested. I can do a video on what I consider to be like newborn essentials. And yeah, but that's kind of been the things that are priorities to me in the first, second, and third trimester. Things that have benefited me, and so I hope by sharing them they may be at least interesting and hopefully helpful. If they were, if you don't mind, just like let me know in the comments. I would love to know, and I would also love to know what your tips are, what helped you the most in your first, second, and third trimesters. All right, thanks for watching this video, and I hope to see you next time.